Hi Wake Forest, I'm Karen Guy and I'm an Extension Master Gardener in Wake County, and I'm here today to talk to you about gardening, specifically about soil testing. Soil testing is a great service. It's free from the state April through Thanksgiving, and it's going to help you be a better gardener by giving you specific information about how to grow your plants. So your first question may be, how do I get a soil testing kit? This is a soil testing kit. It consists of a box and a form that you'll fill out. I've started to fill out a form already and a box, and we're going to go through taking the soil test. I've actually brought soil from my garden in this bucket, and I took these soil cores using a tool, a coring tool, but if you don't have one of these, you can use anything that you have. For example, if you're a gardener, you probably have one of these, but if you don't, you could even use a spoon, as long as you can get about 4 to 6 inches deep in the soil to take cores. And with this tool, it takes about 12 cores to fill a soil testing box. You're going to take your soil testing cores, you're going to put them in a plastic bucket, not a zinc bucket, because that can affect the results of your test. You're going to put them in here. You're going to take off any turf or plant material that's on the top so that it's just soil. I mix it up. This was taken yesterday when the soil was a little bit wet, so you can see it's chunky. And I'm going to mix it up, and then one thing you want to do is you want to fill out the information on the box before you create the box, before you fold it and put it together. So I put my name, my address, and then the other important part is the sample ID. You want to put something in here that will help you remember where the soil came from. So in this case, I put front because it's my front yard, and I'm only submitting one sample test. If you have a garden with a raised bed, a backyard, a side yard, and you've been treating that soil differently, you're going to want to take a soil test from each of those areas. So you may be submitting several boxes to the soil testing lab. So that's important that you put the name, so when you get the soil test results back, that it correlates with the location, and you'll know what the recommendations are for that raised bed or that front yard. So I've taken some cores, put them in my bucket, and now I'm going to make up my box. Pretty easy, just folds in place. There are numbers on the box that tell you fold this flap first, fold that flap second. I've got gloves on here, which probably isn't the best idea, but we will make this happen. And there's a line on this box, this red line right here, that you want to fill the box all the way to. If you don't, then you're not providing enough material for the soil testing lab to do their stuff. So you can buy soil testing kits at big box stores, but they're just not as accurate. This lab is a professional lab. They use a centrifuge and all kinds of expensive equipment to give you a really great result. And this soil test that we're doing is just a standard test, but the soil testing lab does offer additional testing services for people who maybe are having problems. There are costs associated with that. So today we're just talking about the free test that you get that's going to tell you stuff about your soil pH, the nutrient levels. Let me see, close one, I'm going to close one, follow instructions, close two, close three, and then fold this over. And then we're going to go to the form. So I filled out this form. It's pretty easy to fill out. This is the simplified form for a homeowner. You put the date, your county. In this case, it's only one box that I'm submitting. But you can see on this form, you can submit several boxes on one form. So you could have front, you could have back, you could have raised bed. And you put a lawn and garden code. Mine is 026. And so how did I get that code? Well, on the back here, they provide a list of lawn and garden planting codes. And 026 is for lawn, not centipede. But you'll notice there's also azalea camellia. They tend to be acid loving, so you get different recommendations if that's what you're trying to grow. You've got flower garden, 023, vegetable garden, 024. But again, in my case, it's just lawn, not centipede. So I filled it out, 026. I'm going to take this form, and I just fold it up. And what I'm going to do is get a rubber band, and now my soil test is ready to leave at the lab. All right, let me tell you where you can get these boxes. There are several locations in Raleigh and Wake Forest. The first one is at the Extension office, and that's on Carrier Drive. The Extension office is being remodeled right now, so in the complex, look for signs that point you to the Ag building, and outside of the Ag building, we have soil testing kits. The main soil testing lab is in Raleigh, which is convenient for us. It's at 4300 Reedy Creek, and that's near the Art Museum. It's self-serve, and it's a little unusual. You have to go around the back of the parking lot to the loading dock. There's a staircase on the right. Go up to the loading dock. There's a metal cabinet in the center, and open it up and help yourself to the boxes and the forms that you need. So again, the boxes look like this, and you want the forms that say lawn and garden soil sample information. It's much easier to fill out. There's some other forms in there, so make sure you get the right one. You can also pick it up at Homewood Nursery in Raleigh, Making Gardens in Wake Forest, the Free Seed Library. If you're a member of Facebook, you can find us, Perennial Gardeners of Wake Forest, and we'll give you that address, or the Ace Hardware in Roseville. So those are all locations where you can pick up a soil testing kit. So we went through how to do the soil sample. And I want to give you some other reasons why you want to do this. Besides, it's the right thing to do because you're reducing the amount of nitrogen, phosphorus, potassium that could be leaching out into waterways and causing algae blooms, which can cause fish kills. We don't want to do that. You also want to be able to build healthy soil. And 1 teaspoon of soil contains more organisms than there are people on this planet. So healthy soil is just full of microorganisms. And if you don't treat it properly, you're going to kill some of that life, which we don't want to do. Healthy soil, it provides life. It also provides anchorage, water, oxygen, and nutrients. So we want to maintain that soil. It takes about 500 years for Mother Nature to create 1 inch of healthy topsoil in our climate. That's leaves and organic matter breaking down with microorganisms and rainfall. So it's a very valuable substance, and we don't want to waste it. Okay. So ideal soil for plants. I think people are kind of surprised by the air. We don't think of soil containing air, but healthy soil is pretty fluffy. Our soil in our gardens tend to be compacted because when the builder comes to put our homes in, they want to scrape off that topsoil, get to the subsoil, build our foundation on something that's sturdy, and that's wonderful for your house foundation, but not so great for your plants. So the ideal soil, and why we say don't walk on your vegetable beds, is nice and fluffy with 25% air and lots of pore space for water to infiltrate. In our area, we have pretty clay soils. Some people may be lucky and have a little more sand, and I say lucky, there's pros and cons of both. There's tons of mineral in clay though, so it may be difficult to work, but you get quite a bit of minerals in it. I'm going to tell you a little bit more about clay. So to give you a visual on the size difference between clay and sand particles and how this matters to you. If you imagined you had a gigantic swimming pool and you filled it with basketballs, those are your sand particles, coarse sand particles. If we scale them up and they say they're about the size of a basketball, then you're going to fill it with water, and there's going to be tons of pore space, and it's going to run down very quickly to the bottom of the pool. Well, if you have clay soil, it's like filling that same swimming pool with grains of rice. It's about the same. The size difference, the comparison between a basketball and a grain of rice is about the same between an actual coarse grain of sand and a small particle of clay. It's also shaped that way, so it's very flat and it lays on top of each other. So clay is a real challenge to work. It can compact really heavily. The good part of it is it's got like 1,000 times more surface area, so all those nutrients can attach to that particle better than it can with sand. But the bad part is it's hard to work and it compacts very easily. Now I'm going to get a little sciencey. This is an image of a clay particle. You've got all the positively charged ions, your phosphorus, the nutrients that you're adding from your fertilizer, and they're able to attach to the clay particles so that they don't leach out of the soil. And that is called your cation exchange capacity, and you're going to get that information when you submit your soil test. This image is kind of a representation of a clay particle. Do you see on the outside it's all these positive symbols, and then inside the clay particle it's negative? Well, the particle is charged, and the particle has the ability to hold on to nutrients through those charges. And that is called your cation exchange capacity, CEC. And you're going to get a number back when you submit your soil test. It's going to tell you the CEC of your soil. And it's going to help you understand your ability to hold on to nutrients against the forces of leaching. So the better your CEC, the more the soil is able to hold on to all that fertilizer that you apply. If you're just applying fertilizer and you have a really bad CEC, it's just leaching out the first time we have a heavy rain, and you don't want that. And pH also affects the availability of nutrients to your soil. So you see this chart. If you have only slightly acid or slightly alkaline soil, then nutrients are, the top 6 nutrients, the big ones, are very readily available to the plant roots. But if you start to get very acidic or very alkaline, then those same nutrients that are in the soil are just not available to the plant roots. And that has to do with the way that hydrogen is kind of a bully on that clay particle. It's taking up all those seats at the table, so to speak. But if you can reduce or improve your pH, then you make room for the other nutrients to sit on the clay particle. Okay, so that's why cation exchange capacity and pH is important. Of course, there's a whole lot more to soil science. I'm just trying to skim it and give you an idea why it's important and the kind of numbers that you're going to get back from the soil test. It can be a little bit overwhelming, but that's why master gardeners are here. Nerdy people like me that really get into this would love to talk to you and tell you, like, let's form a plan of action, how to get that cation exchange capacity better, what you can do. And one of the things that you can do is add organic material. Organic material helps improve the texture, whether you have sandy soil or you have heavy clay. It helps create more pore space for that air and that water. It also improves that cation exchange capacity, right? My soil that I was showing earlier in this bucket used to be pretty much all orange, but I've been living in my house for about 10 years and I've been taking care of my soil, so it's getting more and more organic. I got a lot more brown in here than I have orange, so it does work. It does take time though. And these are the main components of a soil report. This is going to mean a lot more to you when you actually have your soil report in your hand, but you can stop this video and take a look at this. You can also contact Master Gardeners after you get your soil testing report, and we can look it up online in the system and walk through it with you if you have specific questions about it. There is information that comes back from the soil testing lab that helps you go through the main components, however. And it's like pH, and they give you recommendations for the NPK on your fertilizer. Fertilizer always has 3 numbers on it. The N is nitrogen is always the first number. That's the most expensive part. So when you go into the store to buy fertilizer and you're looking, well, which one should I buy? Well, your plant really doesn't care about the brand name or if it says holly or azalea. The soil test is going to give you the ratio that you should look for, and you can shop by price and be a little better informed when you buy fertilizer. And here's kind of a word of caution. This is an actual soil test of a Wake County resident, and I feel terrible for them. They've been trying to improve the health of their plants. Their plants are really suffering, and they were actually doing something that was damaging. They were over-liming and over-fertilizing. You can see their numbers are kind of off the scale on phosphorus and potassium here, to the point that their soil is toxic to the roots of their plants. So this is something you don't want to happen to you. Definitely get the free test done. Free again, April through Thanksgiving, and it's going to give you information that'll just save you so much time. You're going to level up as a gardener. You're going to get into the science, and you're going to understand how to fertilize, how to apply lime to your soil to get the best results. And here's some more information that you get back from your soil test. Again, they give you recommendations on how to apply lime if that's something that you need. Most of us in this county have acidic soil So you're going to get back a lime recommendation. There are some exceptions, but. And here's additional information that you're going to get back from your report. This goes into a lot of details. And then finally, when you do buy limestone, one of the easiest things to do is to buy the pelletized stuff. It's a whole lot easier to apply. You can buy just the regular limestone lime, but you're going to get covered in flour when you apply it. I've done it myself. You're just covered in head to toe with this white stuff, and your neighbors think you're crazy. But if it's pelletized, it's a lot easier to apply. It's not as big of a mess. And I'm Karen Guy, Master Gardener in Wake County. Thank you for joining me, and I look forward to seeing you in the next video.